Hey, honey.
Yes, Barry?
Let's get out of here.
Where are we going?
Where do we always go?
Hasta encontrar la playa, por eso grito al mundo, yo soy de Puerto Vallarta, samba de Puerto Vallarta, noche de arrullo en el mar, samba de Puerto
Hello,
Vallarta.
fellow travelers, and welcome to this episode of the Puerto Vallarta Travel Show. I'm your host, Barry Kessler, and I'm just so happy to be introducing you to my favorite vacation destination. Maybe it's even yours. Maybe it should be yours. It's Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. That music you're listening to is performed by Alberto Perez, and Alberto is the owner of the Lapa Lapa group of restaurants here in Puerto Vallarta. Lapa Lapa restaurant is on the south side of town, right down on the beach. It's just so romantic, with that view of the Los Muertos Pier all lit up during the night, your toes in the sand, tiki torches all lit up, candlelit tabletops, right at the ocean's edge. And if you play your cards right, you can hear Alberto play his music and enjoy songs like Samba de Puerto Vallarta when you enjoy dinner at Lapa Lapa. Just saying. An added bonus to a great romantic meal on the beach. So today we are visiting the Vallarta Botanical Gardens, located in Cabo Corrientes, just south of Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. So before we get started, let's ask our friend JR in PV, how do you catch the bus to the Vallarta Botanical Garden? We are with JR in PV. How are you today, JR?
I'm fine. Very good, Barry. Thank you.
Great. Listen, we are headed down to the Botanical Gardens today, and I wanted to ask you to kind of explain to us how we can take a bus down to the Botanical Gardens. Now, from town, I know it's fairly easy. Could you explain that to us?
Okay. The bus to the Botanical Gardens is the El Tuito bus. It's the bus that goes from the south side of Puerto Vallarta to El Tuito. That takes about 50 minutes and costs 32 pesos. The Botanical Gardens is maybe three-quarters of the way and costs 28 pesos. I would imagine the driver may sometimes charge 32, and to hell with it. You know what I mean?
Right. It's a couple extra pesos. We're talking pennies here.
Their choice, they don't understand. But we're talking about 5 pesos, for goodness sake. It's nothing.
Right. 20 cents. So, yeah. All right. So now, where do you catch that bus?
Okay, the bus used to stop on Carranza at the corner of Aguacate on the south side. Aguacate is one block east of the main Insurgentes drag that moves north through downtown. They then built a kiosco. A kiosco is like a 7-Eleven on that corner with parking right out front, so the bus can't stop there anymore. All right, so now it parks on Aguacate at the same corner. It's difficult to miss a big bus, but,
yes.
but they did move the stop a certain amount.
Okay.
It runs probably every 20 minutes, something like that.
Good. All right, so let's say you're not in town. How do you get there from, let's say, could you take a bus from Nueva Vallarta or from Bucerias or something like that to this location there at Aguacate and Carranza?
Well, you could, but it's really a hassle because just to get to the bus stop requires 2 buses from those areas. I think it would be far better to take a taxi into town to that corner and then get on the bus to the Botanical Garden.
Perfect. That makes a lot of sense. So if you're coming from Punta de Mita, if you're coming from Nueva Vallarta, if you're coming from Bucerias, probably even from the hotel zone, right? Maybe take a cab there too?
No, hotel zone on the marina, you can take a bus to the south side. They all go to the south side, whether they go on the bypass road through the tunnel or whether they go through town, they all end up on the south side. You may have to walk a few blocks, but the bus stop is marked on my map of the south side, so it's not hard to find.
Good. And you can find JR's map at vallartainfo.com and download those maps before you come to Puerto Vallarta for sure. All right, JR, it sounds like you got us to the gardens. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, now keep in mind that the garden doesn't open until 10 o'clock. Also, getting the very early buses, whether you're going to the gardens or Tuito or even the Boca de Tomatlan bus, the early buses will be packed, standing room only. I mean, this is the way the workers get to their work south of Puerto Vallarta, and they generally start around 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. So avoid getting on the bus before 9. The 9:30 bus would be just great in either case.
Perfect. Great. That's great news and obviously great information for everybody. JR, thanks a bunch.
Hey, you're welcome, Barry. See you soon.
You got it. All right, great. So now we can get there. But if you're not interested in taking a public bus to the Vallarta Botanical Garden, you can always hire a cab to take you there. And there's also tours that'll take you as well. So I'll have all that information in my show notes for this episode on the Vallarta Botanical Garden, and you'll find them at PuertoVallartaTravelShow.com. And anyway, let's get right to this. This interview was sparked by Hillary Abrams. Now, Hillary is the wedding coordinator over at the Vallarta Botanical Gardens, and she answered a call that I put out for wedding coordinators here in Puerto Vallarta. Remember, the first episode we talked about that I was going to talk to and interview wedding planners and photographers and caterers and butchers and bakers and candlestick makers. Remember that? Well, I put out this call, and she invited me to come out to the Vallarta Botanical Gardens, or as they say in Spanish, Jardín Botánico de Vallarta. And she wanted to show me what they have to offer to the bride and groom. Of course, I leapt at the chance to have the opportunity to see the gardens and possibly even do 2 interviews at the same time, because I really had wanted to get out to the gardens and interview Bob Price down there. Anyway, little did I realize at the time what a wonderful opportunity that this turned out to be, because, well, I was just so touched by the experience, about visiting the gardens, encountering the group of people who just were so dedicated to their craft there. So I had an appointment to meet Hillary at 10 o'clock at the garden. So I walked out of my apartment up in the El Cerro area. It's right next to Gringo Gulch. I actually walked right past Liz's place there on my way downhill. It was about 8:30 in the morning, and I walked down into the Emilio Zapata area. I crossed the northbound bridge over the Rio Quale, past the restaurant El Fuente del Puente, walked past that watchmaker who works on the bridge. Now, this watchmaker, this guy's a kick. He has a large enough following to make a business of it. He changes batteries in watches, he sizes watch bands, and he does more, like right there in the shade of a tree. Now, having been in the jewelry business for 36 years, before I went into the real estate business, I used to do just what he does, but I got to say, he has a much nicer office. This guy does a brisk business, amazingly enough. He just kind of sets up his little bench right there on top of the bridge. Then I grabbed a donut anyway. I moved on down the street. I grabbed a donut at a tienda. I got an orange drink, and then I walked the rest of the way to the corner of Aguacate and Carranza, where, as if by magic, you guys, there was a bus sitting there waiting. It said Botanical Gardens and El Tuito on it. So it was 9 o'clock in the morning, and I just love it when a plan falls in place. So I got on the bus, and I headed towards the back of the bus. I looked at the bus driver. He didn't want my money. He didn't want it until after we reached the destination. So I went to the back, and I picked a seat where I could plop my backpack, which had all of my audio recording equipment in it, like my microphones and all the cables I use and my recorder and all that stuff. And I had my camera rigged too. So I sat that on a seat right next to me. But I was soon joined in the back by this guy. He was he looked like he might have spent a little bit too much time drinking too much. He looked like he actually was about my age. He was jovial enough, and he had a couple of friends with him, but he was kind of rough around the edges, let's just say that. Anyway, he sat around where I was sitting, and as I waited for the bus to leave for the gardens, I just kind of listened to them and eavesdropped on what they were saying. It makes my trip a little bit more interesting, because I do speak Spanish, and so I'm kind of one of those guys who doesn't let on, and I just like to hear what they say. Anyway, it wasn't that interesting what he was talking about, but soon the bus, it was full of passengers, and we took off for the gardens. Now, for those of you who are familiar with Puerto Vallarta and have taken the bus down south of town to like Mismaloya Beach or to Boca de Tomatlan, you're going to be familiar with the road. It travels down the exact same road. It goes to Boca, it goes past Mismaloya, and it travels along the coast. It winds past large estates, beautiful hotels and resorts and condos. It goes past some of these places. It's interesting. They look empty, abandoned. Maybe they ran out of money. Maybe they had problem with the buildings, whatever it is, but there's those too. But they're right on the ocean. They're kind of perched on cliffs looking, or right on the beach, looking out onto the Bahia de Banderas, and it's just so pretty. There's also some really pretty secluded beaches that you could actually stop and walk down to. Anyway, my favorite parts of this route are the speed bumps that they place strategically in front of the bigger complexes, the bigger hotels that are along this route. The bus slows way down to accommodate the bumps, and of course it stops to pick up people, but that second thump, when the rear axle is going all the way over it's the best part of the trip, I gotta tell you, especially if you have a bad back. Hey, it doesn't matter if you're on a bus or in a car, it's the same. Anyway, those buses stop there and pick up and drop off people at the hotels, just kind of at regular bus stops. So anyway, the bus stops at Mismaloya and it stops at Boca, but then it continues up along it's called the Horcones River, which is the river that empties into the Boca de Tomatlan. And anyway, it goes up into the mountains towards the old town of El Tuito. And the bus stops at the entrance of the garden. It takes about 50 minutes, 50, not 15, but 50 minutes. And then the driver asks for the money, and I think it was 26 pesos. It's pretty cheap. It's like $1.25. Anyway, he'll give you change if you don't have the right change, but don't hand him a 500 peso bill, okay? What I mean is he'll give you a little change. Anyway, the garden entrance is really pretty. And you check in at the front reception area where you buy your admission ticket. It was 150 pesos, which is about $6. And then I brought my own, but I also noticed that you can purchase insect repellent right at the ticket counter. So don't forget yours. But if you do forget yours, it's no problem, right? It's there. Also, it's always a good idea if you're going to be going to the garden to wear long pants. I'm just saying, that's what they say you should do, and I do what they say. Anyway, as I walked toward the restaurant and the gift shop area, I passed past these planter beds and plants displays that are kind of along the pathway. It's just really a beautiful setting. It's right in the jungle, the air is fresh, the birds are singing, it's really, really nice. Anyway, I reached the restaurant, and right away I recognized Bob Price from a picture I've seen of him. He's a big, tall, strong guy. Anyway, he seemed very good-natured, and I asked where I could set up my microphone and my recording equipment, and he motioned for me to set up anywhere. And anyway, I was doing the quick build of my mobile recording studio right in the middle of this hall, this restaurant there. And there's a beautiful platform that you can actually look out over the river, and you can look at birds. I mean, this whole restaurant area is just gorgeous. It's open-aired, just very, very nice. At the table where I was setting up, Bob Price, Neil Gerlowski, and another one of the top dogs over there were sitting, having breakfast with a young Mexican national, and they were speaking both English and Spanish, and I realized that this was a job interview. The three of the interviewers were peppering the applicant with questions, and he was fielding them with really great skill in English and in Spanish, of course. But what impressed me was the background and the knowledge and the experience of this, who I perceive was a very young man. I could tell that this guy was going to have a job by the end of the day. And I was wrong, by the way. He was hired before the end of breakfast. But what impressed me most was the intelligent questioning of the young man. It was kind, it was humane. The way that they interacted with this new hire, it was really amazing. It was cool to see these guys in action. They were so dedicated to their field, and you could see all of them were just so dedicated to what they do. So anyway, then Bob swung around, and he asked if I was ready to interview him, and this is how that interview went. Today, I am with Bob Price, and Bob Price is the founder of the Vallarta Botanical Gardens. How you doing, Bob?
I'm doing great, Barry. Thanks for coming out today.
Absolutely. It was a great ride. The bus was, I love the fact that once we get to Boca Tamatlan, we go up into the hills, and it's a nice little ride.
Yeah, coming here by bus or by taxi, but by bus especially, is a unique cultural experience, and a lot of things people enjoy. The price is certainly right. It's about 25 pesos each way to the gardens, so it's about $1 to come on out from the romantic zone to arrive at our garden. And, the bus is great. You'll be meeting some new friends on the bus and getting to practice your Spanish probably. The bus will drop you right off at the entrance of the garden.
Yes, it does. And also we passed by a little town on the way here. What's the name of that town?
The little town after Boca de Tomatlan is called Las Juntas y los Veranos.
Ah, okay. What does that mean?
Las Juntas signifies where things come together. Las Juntas is where things come together, and Veranos means the summer. So I guess it's where things come together in the summer. Okay.
All right. I had the same kind of a question when we were talking about cuates y cuetes. What does that mean? So, all right. So how long have the gardens been here?
The gardens were founded in 2005, and this year, November 15th, we'll turn 12 years old.
Oh, well, happy birthday almost.
Well, that's a while, but anyway.
Okay, yeah. Well, 12 years, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your concept here.
Sure. Our concept is to create a world-class botanical garden and showcase where people can learn about Mexican plants in this incredible environment. We have lots of collections of different native plants. We also have collections of exotic plants, such as our rhododendron exhibit, which are plants that are native to the highland rainforests of Southeast Asia. We're the only botanic garden in Mexico that exhibits these plants. We have a tropical plant house. Also right now, if you would come out and see in the tropical plant house, we have our famous Philippine jade vine is blooming right now to the delight of all of our visitors. And we also have a native plant house where everything inside of this exhibition area is all plants that are native to Mexico.
Okay, so you do have other plants here that are not native to Mexico. That's what you're saying.
Yes, we do. Our whole area of the Botanic Gardens is 55 acres, but only about 6 of those acres are under our cultivation. The rest of it is wild forest, and we have some incredible hiking trails for people who would like to get out into the woods to see the nature of the place, see the trees and wild orchids and other things that you might encounter hiking along the the trails. We also have a beautiful river for swimming, a crystal clear river, the Rio Los Orcones, which we have some great swimming holes. So we invite people to always bring their bathing suit for a trip to the Botanic Garden. It's one of the highlights of the trip here.
Wow. Okay, so I didn't really know that, and that's a really good idea for those of you who are listening. Bring your bathing suits and towel, of course, and bug spray maybe?
Yeah, because we are in the middle of a jungle. We do have a lot of insect life here, and a few of them, most of them not. There's obviously many thousands of varieties of insects, but there's one in particular. In English, we call it the no-see-um, or the sand gnat. It's a very, very, very small insect, and we try to warn people to wear insect repellent when they're in the garden so they're not bothered by the sand gnats.
Yes, and
it's a smart idea.
Yeah, they're nasty, and those no-see-ums, well, you can't see them. They're really tiny, and you really don't know you've been bitten by one until the next day, usually.
Right, and they're not just here at the gardens. They're anywhere that you might go outside the city or along the beach anywhere, so you always want to carry insect repellent along with you in case you feel yourself starting to get itchy. That's a sign that you might be being bitten, so you want to put the insect repellent on before you come into the gardens.
Now, you have a laboratory here on the premises. What do you do in the lab?
In our lab is a plant micropropagation laboratory for growing orchids in vitro, and that means we grow them under sterile conditions in test tubes. As they become older, they're taken out of the test tubes and potted up into regular pots once they're strong enough to survive in the outside world.
Neat. Okay, so... this is a big place, so do you depend on donations from outside to keep you running, or do you, it's about 150 pesos to get in, which in dollars is about, $5?
Yeah,
$6.
It's a little over $6. The main way the Botanic Garden works, we are a 501c3. We're a non-for-profit organization. We have over 450 members at different levels that support the gardens. And the reason that we've been able to do what we've been able to do here is we have some very generous donors that love the gardens and think it's an important cultural addition to Puerto Vallarta and want to see it continue to thrive, which it has. So we're very grateful to our donors, and without them it wouldn't be possible.
Wow. Okay. Well, okay, heads up, everybody. Once you take that walk, you might want to make this, put this on your list of places that you want to donate.
Yeah, well, I would invite people to come out, experience the gardens, see for themselves what it is, the feeling that it creates. They'll understand why it's important once they get here. We also have a wonderful restaurant here, which we certainly would invite everyone to try, which is an authentic Mexican restaurant. And we also have a wood-burning brick oven where we make homemade pizzas. And our new thing now is we're making chocolate from scratch.
No, you are?
Yeah, we're growing the chocolate here. We have a orchard of cacao, the Theobroma cacao tree, which is the tree that chocolate comes from. And now the Theobroma cacao trees are starting to produce the chocolate pods. So we've made several batches already, and our trees are producing more and more, and we're planting more and more trees because we realize that the chocolate is such a favorite thing for so many people that we're going to be a lot really getting into the chocolate business. I don't know about it being a business, but we're going to highlight the chocolate process here. It's a great story about Mexico, especially because chocolate was first discovered in Mexico, first used in Mexico by the indigenous people. And so it's something that everyone's interested in learning about and getting a taste of, too.
Everybody loves chocolate. Okay, Move over, Hershey. Here you come. Okay.
Right. So
this is a beautiful spot. Right now we are sitting, because this is an audio show. You'll have to go to my website at www.thepuertovallartatravelshow.com and check out the pictures that I'm going to post here. This is a beautiful setting to sit and eat and relax and just feel the breeze kind of come by. It's a great location.
Yeah, well, we have a flower show, our annual flower show, which is our most attended event of the year. It's February 17th through 27th, And it's the Hall of Flowers, the room that we're sitting in now, is decorated with many types of orchids and blooming plants, and it's a great time to visit the garden. So come on out for the flower show. It's the February 17th through the 27th.
Great. And I'll have one last question for you. What's the best part of your job?
The best part of my job is working with the plants. I enjoy that the most. But also I love just greeting the people that come here. And every bit of my job is fun. I love my job. I would like everyone to look at the TripAdvisor website for Puerto Vallarta and notice that the Vallarta Botanical Garden is number 3 on TripAdvisor as the top 3 things to do. We're number 3 out of 167 different things to do in Puerto Vallarta. So we're within striking distance of the number 2 spot, and our goal is to become the number 1 attraction on TripAdvisor in Puerto Vallarta.
Okay, so if you want to stack the deck, everybody, you know what to do.
Yeah. I would encourage you to visit the garden before you wrote a review on TripAdvisor.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Hold off, everybody.
Yeah,
Let's be honest, all right?
That's right. That's how the TripAdvisor system works. So, yeah, you could come out, and I always recommend people when they tell me what a great day they've had and the most fun they had on their whole vacation was coming here. I always encourage them to write a review, and they're more than happy to spread the word about the great times that are to be had here at the garden.
Well, in 12 years, you've made this place number 3 on the list. That's impressive, Bob.
Thanks very, very much.
Thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure.
My next interview was with Hillary Abrams. As I mentioned earlier, she was the reason that I came to the garden in the first place. She was really excited to show off the new chapel at the garden and the International Peace Garden of Mexico, soon to be dedicated. We're going to talk about that in a little while. But that garden's right in front of the beautiful chapel. Anyway, I came to find out about weddings at the garden. So let's get right into that interview with Hillary Abrams. Today, I am joined by Hillary Abrams, and Hillary is the wedding coordinator at the Puerto Vallarta Botanical Gardens. Thanks for joining us, Hillary.
Thank you, Barry.
So before we get started into the subject of wedding planning, please tell us a little bit about yourself. What was your path that brought you to Puerto Vallarta?
Okay. Well, my parents were actually the trailblazers that came down to Mexico. They retired in Maito, which is a small town about 2.5 hours south of Vallarta, just past El Tuito.
Uh-huh.
And I just fell in love with it. And I was living in New York City where it's cold and gray this time of year, and getting on a subway and commuting to a cubicle job. And at one point, I just decided to make the leap and came down to Mexico. And I wasn't even planning on living down here full time or permanently. It wasn't until I met Robert Price at the Botanical Garden and started planning weddings that it opened up this whole new path and life for me. And it's been over a year now that I've been working here, and I'm just in love with it. I love Mexico. I can't imagine living anywhere else.
Wow. Okay. Well, this is kind of a common thread that we hear when we talk to people and we ask what their path is. It seems that people, fall in love with Puerto Vallarta. What's with that? And then they don't want to go home. I mean, I totally agree with you. I never want to go home when I come here.
I organized large-scale volunteer events for one of the biggest social service agencies in New York. So I have a history of organizing people, transportation, food, venues, and that sort of involvement. My parents are members of the Botanical Gardens, so when I decided I wanted to move down here, we came to visit Robert, the curator, and we saw the chapel, our gorgeous new chapel, and he needed a wedding planner, and it kind of all just came together very seamlessly. Wow. I had never had experience per se working with brides and weddings and mothers of the bride and all of that. what comes with that. But yeah, it was I kind of jumped into it, and it worked out really well.
So you say you've never dealt with brides and stuff like that. They're tough, aren't they? And mothers of brides, right?
There's a personal, it's very personal to everyone, and it's different from organizing. So I was doing corporate volunteer events where it's not somebody's special day, where that's going to be one of the biggest days of their lives. It's kind of just another event in a stream of yearly events we did. So yeah, it's different, but I understand that everyone takes it very seriously, and it's a big day for each bride.
Yep, I can tell you for sure that's how that works. Well, here we are. We're surrounded by all of this beauty. I can really see why someone might pass up a seaside wedding in favor of a garden wedding like this, especially this garden. So the people who choose to get married right here in this beautiful space, are they locals? Are they expats? Or are they coming from, they're coming from the U.S. or are they coming from Canada?
The majority of our brides are either friends or family of our members. We have a large membership here at the Botanical Gardens. So of those 400 to 500 members, it's nieces, it's grandchildren, it's friends, and so we get a lot of referrals that way. We also get visitors to the garden every year who, if I'm walking around and I have my name badge on that says wedding coordinator, people just say, oh, my friend just got engaged, or my sister just got engaged. I'm going to tell them about this place. And then we have a lot of inquiries that just come in from the website, but it's mostly expats that are coming in, Canadians, Americans.
Okay, so maybe one of our listeners might decide that they would like to talk to Hillary about being married here. And Hillary, it's so pretty here. I got to say, it's so nice. So
It is.
Describe to us what a wedding here in the gardens would look like.
Okay, so I actually can't necessarily describe what a generic kind of garden wedding would look like, because each of them are very specific to what our bride and groom are interested in. And that's part of the reason that I enjoy working here so much, and that I'm always on my toes, because each wedding is very different. We don't do what I would refer to as a rinse and repeat type wedding. They're all very specific, whether somebody wants a mariachi band, if they want traditional dancers, if they're looking for a Latin buffet, or if they want an Italian plated dinner. They're all very specific to what each individual is looking for.
So that there's no cookie cutter going on here.
No, absolutely not. And whether it's different desserts or different music, or some people are really into dancing and having a big dance floor. Some of them are more into having lighted pathways for their guests to wander through the garden. And so it's all very specific to what we can cater to, what a bride's looking for.
Well, do you have like a book that kind of shows different weddings that you've had, so you can kind of show them, kind of lead them, kind of help them out a little bit?
We do. I have some photos that I'm gathering. The chapel, our new chapel, was just finished literally in the end of December. So what's happening now is we're gaining a lot of momentum. I have inquiries almost every day from people who are interested in using our venue. And so I'm building right now a cachet of photographs and of brides who have been here, who want to give us great referrals, who had an excellent experience. And so, yeah, I think for someone who's interested in working with a venue and understanding that we are just now gaining momentum, and we have experience with the catering, we have experience in our restaurant here, but as far as the weddings go, we're still a little bit new in the process.
You're babies. You're doing the baby step right now.
It's exciting, though. It's really exciting.
Well, I got to get up there and take a look at that chapel. I got to take some pictures of it and make sure that our listeners get a chance to look at it. And if you have a chance to go to, well, you better have a chance to go to my website at www.puertovallartatravelshow.com. I'll have it on the blog that is accompanying this podcast. We'll have pictures. I'll have a picture of Hillary if she decides she will pose for me.
Absolutely.
And then I'm also going to have pictures of the chapel and of the garden. So make sure that you check that out. Those who are not in town and they're maybe doing this long distance, how do you make sure that they're going to have the wedding of their dreams? How do you do that long distance?
A lot of Skype calls.
Good, yes, I love Skype.
Photographs, Pinterest. Generally, the bride and groom come to visit at least once before the wedding, so we can sit down and go through the menu and make any changes or suggestions and do a tasting and do a walkthrough. If they're not available for that, which I completely understand, I just walk through the garden with them on the phone and we talk about what we're going to do, and it all turns out really beautifully.
Nice. All right. So do you use locals to help you produce things like table centerpieces and other kind of wedding-related stuff? And when I talk about wedding-related stuff, what kind of wedding-related stuff might you have that you would supply or maybe suggest to your wedding people?
Mm-hmm. Definitely any piñatas, and we have photo booths and fireworks and floating candles and donkey rides and traditional dancers, mariachis, everything. It's just anything that you would want in a big Mexican fiesta. So,
that's stuff that a lot of people wouldn't even think of. So that's really neat to be able to say, hey, well, what do you think about this? My wife would love donkey rides at her wedding. She would definitely have loved that. All right. So you use locals to help you with that. Help
Absolutely.
You produce those things and all that stuff. Great. Now, the flowers you get here, they must be beautiful because, they've got to shine against this backdrop here. Mm-hmm. So
they're gorgeous.
Where do you get those flowers?
We use both Chiltepec in Vallarta and Flowers to Go. So Chiltepec is a flower warehouse where you can go in and pick out and order ahead of time flowers that you're looking for. It's fun, actually. You go into the big freezer and it's kind of like...
It must smell wonderful.
It's delicious.
Oh, man.
Mm-hmm.
I love walking into a florist shop. I can imagine walking into a place like that.
Mm-hmm.
So how about the food? Do you bring in outside caterers or do you use your local kitchen here?
We use our local kitchen here. The food is amazing. It's absolutely delicious. Our restaurant is packed out during the season all day long, and it reflects in our wedding. We use all of the same food that's generally on our regular menu, but we're also able to play with it a little bit and to make some changes if a bride and groom are looking for more local caught fish and shrimp, or if they're interested in vegetarian menus or vegan. It's all very flexible.
Yeah, so you leave it to your client to choose what kind of menu they'd like, although you present them with the one that you have and say, we've got this, but if you have special needs
Absolutely.
Or special wants, we'll do it for you. Well, that's the way to do it here and not have to bring in local, outside caterers, and that makes sense. And yes, the food here is delicious. Oh, my God. It is really, really good. I mean, Puerto Vallarta is so lucky to have such wonderful restaurants in town. But when you get out here to the Botanical Gardens, you must come to the restaurant and eat.
Yes.
And there's a beautiful gift shop here, too, so definitely you got to check that out as well. Now, there's one, let's see here. Can you give us an idea as to how much someone might spend on a wedding ceremony with food and, et cetera? I mean, not going overboard, not going crazy, although I want to hear about the fireworks. I want to hear about that. But how much would someone plan to spend per person?
Okay. So we have separate costs for the chapel rental, for the rental of the Hall of Flowers, and for the rental of our different facilities throughout the garden. We have an orchid conservatory, we have a vanilla house, and so there's different pricing for that. In general, our chapel is $2,000 to rent that out, and you have it for a couple hours in the morning. We decorate it with flowers and candles and whatever you would like. And then the Hall of Flowers as well is $2,000. And on top of that, we offer either a buffet option. We have a Latin buffet, an Italian buffet, and an international buffet. And those are $38 to $48 per person.
Okay.
And then we also have a family style option as well, where we can have big plates of food, and it all gets kind of fun and exciting with the shared family style option. And then we also have plated.
Okay, so you've got 3 different kinds of options there. You've got the buffet, you've got the family style where you got bowls of food, I imagine, on the tables, right? And then you have the one where you're getting served, each person individually plated.
Right, a little bit more formal. We also have different drink options where we start out with house drinks and then international drinks and international platinum. So there's different levels of pricing per person.
Oh, okay. And so they figure the drink price into the per person price, or are they actually charging you per drink, or how's that work?
No, it's a per person open bar for 4 hours.
Okay.
So it just depends on the types of alcohol that you want to be available at your wedding, and different types of wines and champagnes, and it's all on a sliding scale.
Okay.
So, but our weddings can be very affordable. We have one coming up that's a brunch wedding, where we're going to have a brunch buffet and a mimosa bar and Bloody Marys, and so it tends to be very affordable that way. So $7,000 to $10,000 in that range. But we had a very large wedding on New Year's Eve where we had
I saw pictures of
where
that.
we
Tell me
had
about that.
top shelf everything, and so that was upwards of $30,000.
Yeah, well, but $30,000, come on, you guys. I mean, that's a bargain today,
Yeah.
for goodness sake.
The average wedding in the U.S., I believe, is around 50. So.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Well, this has been a terrific interview, Hillary. Before we leave here, tell us how people can reach out to you, to the gardens here, to plan their wedding.
Okay. So our website is vallartabotanicalgarden.org, and we have photos and information on the packages, and there's a little Inquire Now button that you can click on, and it'll send you right to my email.
Well, Hillary, thanks for joining me. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you.
My third interview was with Neil Gerlowski. And Neil is the executive director of the Jardines Botanicum de Vallarta. And this guy just loves what he does. He's so pumped up about plants. He's so enthusiastic. And I really got to like this guy. So let's get right into the interview with Neil Gerlowski. Today I'm joined by Neil Gerlowski, and he's the director. He's the executive director here at the Vallarta Garden Botanical. And thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Barry.
Yeah, you have some pretty interesting stories, but one of the first things I ask before we get into the talk is I always ask people, tell us a little bit about yourself, and what was your path to Puerto Vallarta?
Okay, well, I grew up in New Hampshire and wanted to go to school for forestry. My parents successfully talked me into going to school for English teaching instead. And after a year as an English teacher, I decided I wanted to get back outdoors for my work. So I moved to Arizona, and I was a park ranger for the city of Phoenix for 8 years. And then I fell in love both with Mexico and with a Mexican gal. And fast forwarding, we now live here in Puerto Vallarta and have 2 children, both born in Puerto Vallarta, a 5-year-old boy, Emmanuel, and my 2.5-year-old daughter, Raquel. And Lorena and I are still happily together with the kids and enjoying life down here.
That's wonderful. Congratulations on that. That's neat.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about what you do here at the gardens.
Well, when you have a small garden, you end up doing a lot of everything. And for me, with the position of the executive director, it especially has to do with the program development and fundraising so that we could continue pursuing the vision that we have for our garden and outside of our garden in the community.
Okay, so that's quite a job.
It is. It keeps me quite busy.
What's your favorite part of your work here?
To me, some of the greatest satisfaction is when I see people enjoying what we've created, when I see a family, for example, or a couple strolling around and looking at a flower that they've never seen for the first time, or a tree, and to see that there's that connection between plants and community is a great source of fulfillment. Probably the more exciting part of what I get to do is when we have funds for research up in the mountains and we're able to investigate a tree, for example, such as the Magnolia Vallartense, and go there and explore the phenology of it.
Oh, you've got to tell us the story about that. This is a remarkable story, you guys.
Sure. So back in 2012, a local Vallartense named Ricardo Diaz Boreoli was among the first to notice that one of the magnolias here looked a lot different than Magnolia pacifica, which is also found along our Pacific coast. And together with researchers from the University of Guadalajara, including Dr. Antonio Vasquez Garcia, Dr. Miguel Angel Muñoz Castro, Ana Nunez Rubio, and several others, went and investigated this plant, and sure enough, it turns out that for several reasons, it is a distinct species. They named that species Magnolia vallartensis in honor of our city of Puerto Vallarta, and then our city selected this as our official tree. Nice.
So, all right. So I saw one. You have several of them actually growing over here. It's kind of tall and skinny. You're waiting for it to flower, aren't you?
We are, and it won't stay skinny much longer. It'll start building some girth, and there's several of these that we visit out in the forest that are mature specimens where if I tried to give it a tree hug, I could only get about halfway around the girth, and then the height is well over 20 meters from some of these. But we climb up to the tops looking for buds and flowers and fruit, etc., so that we could document the phenology of this plant. And I also want to mention that a lot of the work that we're able to do on that is through our collaboration with the University of Guadalajara, especially their Cucpa campus, and also locally their CUC campus, Centro Universitario de la Costa, and as well through funds from the Magnolia Society International.
You don't come here without having some education in plants and species and all this other stuff. What's your background in that?
Right. So as I mentioned earlier, I did want to go to school for forestry, but I studied English teaching instead. My degree is a Master's of Arts in Teaching with a concentration in English. And as an undergrad, I was a double major with English teaching and outdoor education. So the outdoor ed part has won over the years, and I've been able to reconnect with some of my passions. But I also edit our garden's monthly magazine, El Papelillo, or the leaflet, as we call it for the English edition. So I'm still making use of those skills as well.
I had a look at that magazine. That's quite a publication you got there. How do people subscribe to that? You have an online edition of that, don't you?
Absolutely. So folks can go to our website, which is www.v as in Vallarta, B as in Botanical, Gardens, plural, .org, O-R-G, or they can go to issuu.com, ISSUU.com, diagonal, Vallarta Botanical Gardens.
Excellent. So take note, everybody. All that information is going to be on my website in the blog for this particular podcast, and definitely check it out, subscribe, and see what's going on at this beautiful place. So right now we are sitting in a place that's right in front of, looks like the chapel here, and it's a peace garden. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So last summer, our garden's founder and curator had the idea of applying to the International Peace Garden Foundation for status as Mexico's International Peace Garden. And we did, and they let us know that they were quite happy to hear about our project, but that these kind of requests need to go through government representatives. So we reached out to both the mayors of Puerto Vallarta and Cabo Corrientes, Jalisco, two very closely connected communities, and we asked if either or both of them would be interested in applying to this International Peace Garden Foundation for the distinction as Mexico's International Peace Garden. And they did. They loved the idea, and apparently so did the International Peace Garden Foundation. So the dedication for that will be February 16th from 2 to 4 in the afternoon, and we'll have the Paula Savage, the president of the International Peace Garden Foundation, along with Michelle Goutier, their executive director, will attend. We'll also have both mayors, Mayor Prisciliano Ramirez Guardian of Cabo Corrientes and Arturo Davalos of Puerto Vallarta attending and participating in the ceremony. We'll also have Emiliano Sanchez Martinez, the president of the Mexican Association of Botanical Gardens, and we've invited several other local community leaders and clergy too. Since we're in front of the garden's chapel, this is a multi-faith chapel. It's called Nuestra Señora del Jardín, Our Lady of the Garden, and it's open for folks of all different faiths. In fact, when we had the dedication and the blessing for this event, we had a Catholic priest, Padre Saul. We had a Zen Buddhist monk, Rick Spencer. We had Victor Hugo Guardarrama, also known by his adopted native name of Tonotiwo, and he represents the Huizarrica or Huichol native indigenous tradition.
Yeah.
Yes, and Milton Bogush from the local Jewish community. So several folks representing different faiths, and for us it's important that we connect with everyone and anyone who would like to focus on peace, because certainly the future of our world is already so interdependent, and our future relies on peaceful relations between people, communities, and nations.
It's a wonderful, wonderful idea for this garden, and I've been watching as you have been building this garden. I saw it not too long ago, and it was kind of dirt. It was just, there was nothing here, and now it seems to be growing and looking more and more beautiful.
It's growing, it's thriving, and our thanks goes out to that, especially to the patrons for this project. The lead patron, Cheryl L. Wheeler, is the one who provided the lead gift for this project to make it happen. We had several other very generous contributions as well, and for the hard work of our staff and volunteers to bring this all together in a relatively short amount of time, from dirt lot to a beautifully landscaped garden, and a landscape that's also very functional with seating for events. And the idea is for it not just to be enjoyed by viewing it, but to be enjoyed through its use, and for us to schedule peaceful activities and activities for people to reflect and work on developing and cultivating their relationships with each other.
Nice. And don't we all need a little bit more of that in this world? Well, I got to say, Neil, you've been quite a fount of information. Is there anything else you want to add while we're here?
Well, Barry, I could definitely talk for hours about our garden, about our community, about what botanical gardens mean to the world. But I think more than anything else, if I have just one last thing to say to folks, is I want to invite them to come down to Puerto Vallarta, enjoy our community, and while they're here, come out and visit the Vallarta Botanical Garden.
Well said. And you all should do that. There is, Vallarta is a seaside community. And it's nice to kind of get out and get a look at the jungle and just see the beauty of this particular spot that we're in. To sit right here in the Peace Garden and just with a little bit of a breeze blowing through. And man, this is a great place to work.
Thank you. We like to say it's beyond the beach and beyond your expectations.
Nice. Thanks again for joining us.
Thank you.
And in honor of the dedication of the Cheryl L. Wheeler International Peace Garden of Mexico on February 16th, 2017, I produced this episode of the Puerto Vallarta Travel Show to coincide with the week of the dedication. So get out there, see the fabulous addition to the Jardines Botanicum de Vallarta, the Vallarta Botanical Garden, this beautiful, beautiful Cheryl L. Wheeler International Peace Garden of Mexico. And after you visit, don't forget to give it a good review on TripAdvisor and see if we can make this place the #1 attraction in Puerto Vallarta. And don't forget, the Botanical Garden is available for you for weddings or for a party, or maybe you want to renew your vows with friends and family. Anyway, I'm going to have links to everything Vallarta Botanical Gardens in my show notes at PuertoVallartaTravelShow.com. So check it out, check them out, and add the gardens to your trip the next time you come to Vallarta. Well, that should pretty much do it for this episode of the Puerto Vallarta Travel Show. Again, you're going to find all the show notes to this podcast and all of our previous podcasts, including the links to JR's site and to the website where you can purchase the fantastic music of Alberto Perez, who we're going to listen to as we play out this episode of the Puerto Vallarta Travel Show. And of course, you go to www.PuertoVallartaTravelShow.com, and you can find all of those, including the show notes to this particular episode and the blog. And remember, this show is an interactive show, you guys. I need your participation. I need you to send me emails with questions for JR that you'd like to hear him answer with me right here on the air. Please email me your suggestions as well, and your suggestions for show topics that you think I should be talking about. Just click on that Contact Us tab right on my website at the top of the homepage at PuertoVallartaTravelShow.com. And remember, if you're considering booking any type of tour while you're in Puerto Vallarta, you must go to VallartaInfo.com, that's JR's website, and reserve your tour through him, right from his website. Remember, this is a value-for-value proposition. His experience and his on-the-ground knowledge of everything in Puerto Vallarta in exchange for your making a purchase of a tour that you'd do anyway. You're just doing it through him as a way of saying thank you. Thanks, JR, for being our guide. It costs no more than if you're going to use someone else to do it. So really, just go ahead and do it. And when you take one of those tours, email me about your experiences. Maybe you can come on board and share with others what you liked or what you didn't like about the tour. Again, hit the Contact Us tab and send us a message. Just takes a little bit of your time, so go ahead. And one more favor. If you like this podcast, take the time, give me a good review on iTunes if you would. It would be just so appreciated if you just take a little extra time and do that for me. You can do that right from my website. I've got little places where you can actually click on and go right to iTunes and subscribe and do that. And that way we can get the word out to more and more people about the magic of this place, Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. So thanks for listening all the way through. Thank you, Bob Price, Neil Gerlowski, JR, and especially you, Hillary Abrams, for inviting me to the Vallarta Botanical Garden. This is Barry Kessler signing off with a wish for you all to slow down, be kind, and live the Vallarta lifestyle. Nos vemos, amigos.
Cae la noche, brillas Puerto Vallarta.